Tego and Tracy here in the Kiva, and sans Tracy until she's on her way. She had to check out for a moment, but lots to get to here on this edition of the Venturi Realty Group. Tego, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Eddie. Good to see you as always.
Good to see you.
What an interesting time in real estate. You know, it's an interesting time in a lot of things. Obviously, we've had some pretty interesting inflation numbers this week, and the thing that's interesting about those
30 years.
Yeah,
biggest in 30 years, Tego.
Yeah, no, and home prices are if I'm not mistaken, I think for year over year, probably the largest ever. I know the Case-Shiller had us somewhere around 20% here at
24%. Is that where?
Yeah. At the end of the second quarter, that's going to annually. It's good. It'll drop down as we go through the year here, and I suspect it's still going to be in the high teens, probably nationally. Here locally, we're seeing something very, very similar. We're probably going to end up in the, I'm going to say mid to low teens probably this year. But that's a big gain in home price. And the thing that's interesting is, home prices aren't even really figured into the CPI. It's they look at rent, but anyway, got off on a tangent there. But it's interesting.
That's good.
Yeah,
I think it has to do with the fact that you're so incredibly starstruck by what's happening when you look at these numbers, Tego.
Yeah, it's staggering, and honestly, I'm pretty happy to be in real estate, and I wouldn't want to be too heavy in cat.
You weren't thinking about that, Tego.
No,
but do you mind if I jump in on what I told you or what I said for you to do when this whole thing came down? I said, you know what? Make it the government's problem, the employees. You focus forward and don't stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because every single time, let me tell you what, and this is just the way I see everything. Every time there's a crisis, there's an opportunity.
Yep.
And when you're at the top of your game and you've already established a name, you've done everything that you've done, then you can go ahead and be the go-to person. And you guys were certainly that. You've maintained your number one dominance on that. You haven't fluctuated, moved to another house, figured out a new business plan. You kept doing what you're doing.
Yep.
These are the times that are made for those times, and it's rare. Tego, I cannot tell you how incredibly rare what you achieved is. I see the forest from the... Oh, there's Tracy. There she is.
Oh, I'm ready for a nap. I just had the best Thai food.
Oh, good for you. We've got Tracy in. But you know what luck is, right? Luck is the most important thing in the world, but it's where preparation meets opportunity.
Absolutely.
At that intersection.
And when you look at that, intersection, you guys are right there. And best of all, you guys really deserved it. You both are great people, and you've helped a lot of people through all of that, including people that you've helped bring into the business, people that you have benefited from your business by the standpoint of helping them by acquiring their largest investment, and then, of course, for yourself as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen,
well, thanks, Eddie.
This is right here in the Kiva on a Saturday morning. We have buyer's tips, location. What does that actually mean? Tego and Tracy will bring the insight to you. When will we have more homes on the market? That is the big question, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. The when, it just keeps applying when you can. Cost to rent in Albuquerque has had a big move recently. We'll get into that with Tego and Tracy. And cash sales, that's actually happening. So much capital flowing into the market. People are reaching first without even having to go to the bank. Tego, Tracy, take it away.
Thanks, Eddie.
And there's actually some kind of maybe a little bit different than the narrative you would think about the cash sale. So we'll get into that here in a minute. Tracy, thanks for showing up here a few minutes late, but we're here and we're rolling.
A meal with a very good, important person.
Yes, I get it.
I couldn't just end it.
Yeah.
So wait, let's talk about cash sales. That's funny. It reminds me of Halloween.
Okay. Why?
The most interesting Halloween costume that I saw was
that's right.
Flaunting a bunch of fake money and calling themselves a cash buyer from California.
Yeah.
Pretty funny. Sorry.
There's that kind of that we'll call it maybe an urban legend in the real estate world. It's like, oh, those cash buyers from California, they're everywhere. And so let's talk about this actually, since we are on the subject. So I saw some reports, and then I dug into it some more. Nationally, they're saying cash purchases were about 34% of all home sales in the third quarter of this year. And when you see that, it's like, wow, that is a lot. And the thing that's interesting about that is nationally, but when you actually look at what markets, those are the markets that's happening the most. It's Atlanta, it's Detroit, Dearborn, right? It's Tucson, it's Las Vegas, it's Phoenix, Columbus, Ohio, St. Louis, Sacramento, San Francisco. I think San Francisco for a different reason. But all of those I just listed, all of those markets have institutional home buyers. Okay, so these are companies that buy lots of homes, and they either most of them just end up renting them, right?
Interesting point I hadn't thought of, Tego. Especially, we know the Phoenix, Tucson markets, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of institutional buyers there.
Absolutely.
So, of course, they're paying cash.
You're seeing a lot of cash sales in those markets, right? And that has a lot to do with it. Albuquerque area, we don't really have. There's a few institutional buyers here. Basically, people.
We did do one with Open Door that bought one of our listings, but they're not really here.
No, and that's different. I'm talking about the ones that buy it to rent it. Okay, I mean, I know there's a few. There's a company here that offers the lease purchase option for people where they'll buy it for cash, and then you can lease it back from them.
There's a couple of those, yeah.
But
we've helped people buy that way. They can be cash buyers by agreeing to lease the house for a while until they can convert it to a buy.
So the reality is, and I hear this narrative out there that, it's those cash buyers from out of state, they're coming in and, buying up all the homes. It's like, well, no, the truth is in our markets, only about 17% of the homes that have sold this year are cash sales, which is actually really not any different than any other time. It's very common. A lot of those, I bet if we really dug into those, I bet we'd find that a lot of those are local investors that are buying those homes for either investment to rent or investment as a flip as well. So, there's always going to be those, and there's always going to be that big money coming in from elsewhere to buy up all the homes, but we don't see a big surge of that or huge part of that in the Albuquerque market. And like I said, it's only 17%.
We have had a couple luxury homes on the market recently where we've represented the sellers. We have the one right now in Tinnen Farms in the North Valley, and a few others. And it's interesting because, I can't be that specific, but one particular home we represented recently, high-end luxury, ended up with offers over $1 million and over $100,000 over list price and cash, and a backup offer similar, also cash. But in general, Tego, in the last year, I would say our team's history is a lot of the luxury buyers are local. And a lot of those people are move-up buyers. They're still in their first home that they've outgrown, and they're now in a better financial position to buy their dream home. A
lot of these, people that have now owned their own home, let's say they bought their home in 2012, 11, 13, at quote the bottom of the market. The equity that people have built in their homes, I mean, they have a beautiful nest egg now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Tracy, buyer tip of the week. There's that saying out there. It goes location, 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 right? We hear it in the real estate world all the time. It's the broker motto, they say, and and I think the question is, what does that really mean? And as a buyer, what should you be thinking about when what does that mean to a buyer, and what should they be thinking about?
So a poor location, Tego, can severely limit the upside, right? The upside potential of a home's value, as well as if you do updating on it, you can still not really affect the value as much if the location is a problem. Picking a location, we'll talk about what makes a great location, but if you pick a great house, but the location is wrong, it's hard to fix that. Whereas if you can fix a bad house in a good location, you can paint, you can landscape, you can update it, you can make it look better, and then you're in a great location.
Yeah, you can't fix the location, right?
Right.
It is what it is, right?
So,
and so you
poor
can
locations, right?
Yeah. So
you think about it. It used to be everything along our railroad track was considered a poor location. Well, luckily, they put in those silent crossings.
Yep.
So yes, you can hear and feel that a train is going by, but the whistle doesn't keep you awake all night, right?
I remember a property that was for sale once, and it was kind of down off Edith there in the North Valley along the railroad tracks. And the first line in the property description was "Train Lover's Dream." I thought that was a good way to spin that. It's next to the railroad track, so I thought that was kind of cute. But so what are some other
things?
Yeah,
right?
what are some of the others?
So we talked about the railroad.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's gotten better here.
Yeah.
I kind of like, when I've never lived next to a rail line, but when I sit there at a stopped rail crossing, and I always open my window, and I'm always sad I don't hear the whistle, but I love to feel the energy of the train going by. But I'm sure I wouldn't want to live there and feel it all the time, even though I know trains don't go by all night here.
Yeah.
But some other things, right? So we have garbage dumps around, right?
Landfills, yeah.
Landfills. Being upwind of that would be especially unpleasant because we know that the winds prevalently come from a certain direction here, right? Places that have a lot of nightlight activity, nightlife and light.
That's a tip that you tell people is when you're looking at homes, be sure to maybe look at it in the evening or after dark. You can do that this time of year real easy. You can see if there is a lot of light pollution in the area.
Right. And when we were buying our land 20 years ago to build our house, my father wisely told us to go and check out the land at different times of day and different days of the week.
Yeah.
Because he said sometimes you've got high traffic times or you've got light pollution, sound pollution, whatever. And it made a huge difference because at that time we had a pick of 14 lots and we thought the end lot was going to be the best. Well, it turned out the one in the middle had the least impact of everything.
Yep.
Deteriorating neighborhoods, ones that are on their way down versus regenerating can be a problem. And now this one, a lot of people might not agree with, Tego. Yeah. Next to a school.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a choice. I think I would say it this way: is some people would love it, and some people would absolutely rule it out.
Right, for sure. And some of it is because of all the traffic, right?
As a buyer, right? When you're going to resell. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And some of it just has to do with drop-off and pickup traffic. We think about when we're showing homes around town and it's pickup or drop-off time at schools, and there's just cars lined up for a quarter mile, it seems like, waiting. And if your house is right there, it can be a problem. But I've had a buyer before who said, I don't want to be anywhere where I can hear a kid's playground. Yeah. Which you wouldn't think of that, right?
The other thing, it's not just a specific part of town or a specific neighborhood or a specific zip code. It could be where the home is situated on the street or on the block, right?
So the first thing that comes to mind when you say that, and we haven't talked about this, would be where you're at a T in a road, where a road comes in and you're the house in front of that stop sign, and the lights come all evening long and shine right into your house, and all the cars stop and start there. I remember showing new homes at Paseo and Coors. Up on the bluff there, on the west side of Coors, there was this new neighborhood 15 years ago, and I was like, wow, what a great place to buy. You've got amazing views of the river and back to the mountain. And when I was in the house showing it, it was up above Coors. So not only did you have the noise of Coors, but there was stoplights a block apart right there. And so it was vehicles stopping and starting. And there's something about being on a busier road where the traffic noise is sort of constant. But when it's by a stoplight and people are stopping and starting, it's just exasperated.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
lots of things.
I think the other one on that, again, where the home is located on a block, it could be the side of the street. Obviously, Albuquerque, southern New Mexico, or central New Mexico, all the
The
Southwest.
solar.
No, it's not that. There's that too. I was going to go to the views, right?
Oh,
And
right.
yeah, one side of the street is going to be very different than the other side of the street, right?
Right.
And so it's going to be more desirable. So, there's a lot of things to consider. Now, we think about the housing market we're in right now in 2021, and that there's very limited, number of homes coming on the market. So the choices are limited, and people are going to have to make compromises, or possibly make compromises based on their budget and maybe accept some of these things that aren't ideal location-wise. But, or
when the gem comes on the market,
be ready.
that's in the right neighborhood, that has the backyard unobstructed view to the mountain or to the valley or the river or whatever, or backs to open space, be ready, because you're going to need to pay a premium for it. You're going to need a great lender in line if you're not paying cash. And you gotta be ready to be the one that wants that.
Yeah. So location. That was our talk about that. And there's so many things to consider when you are a home buyer. And just there's another list to put on your list.
Okay.
Tracy, I wanted to segue into this data I saw regarding rent in Albuquerque.
Okay.
And actually, it's national data. It comes from Apartment List. And they track what properties rent for in just every market in the country. And one of the things that jumped out at me is Albuquerque is actually had the highest increase in rental prices in the last year.
Wow. We've heard a lot of people talking about that.
We have. I mean, I've talked to people
with rents rising $200 a month. Some of them.
Yeah, I've talked to people that are renters, and they're just going, I can't like pay rent. I mean, I just can't, I work full time, and I just, so it's tough. And unfortunately, I don't think it's getting any better. It doesn't appear to be. Just give you some of the numbers here. In year over year, we've seen a 23% increase, according to Apartment List, in rent in Albuquerque. Rental rates. You compare that to home prices. We've been talking about home prices going up so much in the last year, which is probably closer to 14, 15, 16%, which is huge. But rents going up 23%? That's a big move.
It is. I've got to hope that some of that is just catching up, because we know as property managers ourselves, we're pretty bad about raising rents.
Absolutely.
And
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I hear that from other property owners, people that are, small landlords like us, or people that, do property management. They're satisfied if they've got a solid tenant that pays on time, they're always there. They're not going to bump them up to, quote, market rent. They're going to, maybe bump it up a little bit, but if they're a solid tenant, they'd rather keep them than try to push that rent too much. One last piece on this, hold that thought, is the rent growth has actually slowed down in the last few months, is what they're tracking. So
I have felt that.
It's good to see. And the thing that's interesting with that tracks exactly with what home prices have done now, is that, home prices got to a certain point and they've kind of flattened out a little bit, maybe gone up slightly, but we didn't, we always have this big run up from March until July, basically, and then it kind of flattens out, and that's what's happened again this year. Rent, it looks like it kind of does the same thing. You have that big run up through the summer, and then it kind of flattens out. But rents are still going up.
Yeah, a lot of people move in the summer, right? So
yeah.
It's the opportunity where people who have rentals have had the opportunity for somebody to leave and raise the rent for the next person in. So what I was going to say is, we have friends that are in an apartment, and they had a notice this summer that their rent was going up by $200 a month. And
Wow, that's a big jump.
yeah, so they did a search and they couldn't find any other apartments available or available for anything similar to what they were at. So they felt sort of fortunate to be able to stay where they were. And they're in a situation where they weren't ready to buy a home because they're actually paying more monthly than what it would cost for them to own a home.
Yeah, yeah. So I did a little analysis here, Tracy, and
When will we have more homes on the market, Tego?
yeah.
I know you were working on that analysis.
I was. I looked at a lot of different data, and so if you're not familiar with what's been going on in the Albuquerque real estate market, and by the way, this is Tego and Tracy Venturi with the Venturi Realty Group of Keller Williams Realty in Albuquerque. And if people want to reach us, Tracy.
Best is just call us, 448-8888. Of course, that's in the 505, 448-8888, or welcomehomeabq.com.
Great, thank you. So, the real story of our market is just the limited number of homes on the market. Now, and that's not just our market. I'm sorry, that's nationally. That's
right.
I'm not going to say everywhere, but most markets, healthy real estate markets, have a much lower number of homes on the market than what would be considered healthy. And what's happened is that's driven prices up substantially. Double-digit home price growth in the last couple of years each year. And so, the question is, okay, what's going to happen that's going to bring more homes on the market to hopefully maybe stabilize prices a little bit, give more opportunity, more options for buyers. And if you've heard, you may have been, if you follow the housing market at all, you've probably heard the narrative that we're going to have foreclosures and we're going to have homes that were in this forbearance program that are going to come flooding on the market. Well, I'm here to tell you, and I'm very confident in this, that is not going to happen. There's maybe some, but it's not going to be a flood. One of the reasons for that is we know as of today, we're here in November of 2021, most of the programs where people were in this forbearance programs expired in October. Now, September, October was when a lot of them were coming up. And if there were a lot of people that were in a situation where they couldn't, pick up and start making their mortgage payment again, and that's how you come out of the forbearance plan, we would have seen, a bunch of homes coming on the market. We haven't seen it locally, and we haven't seen it nationally.
What's really gone on with homes on the market?
Well, and give me the context, or what do you?
So, how many houses do we have on the market compared to last month or 6 months ago?
Okay, yeah, thank you. To put it in perspective, so we're down about 30% over last year, which was down from the year before, which was down from the year before. Let me put it this way. Right now, November of 2021, we're somewhere around 950 homes in the metro Albuquerque area, which, that's residential properties. A healthy market, when they say, when they talk about a balanced market or buyer's market or seller's market, a healthy market based on the current demand we have is 4,000 homes, 5,000 homes. We're at 950.
Right.
Yeah. So there's, a lot of things going on out there. Interest rates have started to come up a little bit. That might actually slow things down. Maybe not. But the one trend and the data that I was trying to get to here, the long way, was when are we going to have more homes coming on the market? And if we look at the seasonal trends from now through probably the end of February, we're going to continue to have less and less homes on the market every week. That holds true. I went back to 2013, and I'm sure it goes back further than that. I just didn't need to go back any further. Is every year from about this point until the end of February, the following year, we see about 20% less homes on the market. Now, 2020 was an exception to that, but a 2020 is an exception to just about everything. Yeah.
2020.
Which means from our 950 we have now, we could be down to 700 homes on the market.
Yeah, that would be really tough.
It would be, and it's unfortunate because there's people that want to buy. We know that there's thousands of people in our market that have pre-approvals, to purchase a home, mortgage applications.
Their financing is ready.
We know that mortgage applications have been very strong. We've got that data. So I don't know. It's just, I don't know what to make of it other than it's not great.
Yeah, it's tough. So when will we see more homes on the market? Probably March, but probably April, definitely April, May, June, because that seasonally is when we see them. But will we see 4,000, 5,000 homes on the market? No, we're just going to slowly inch up for our busy season next spring, which means if you're thinking of selling, it might be a really good time.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a challenge, and I know I'm kind of tongue-tied here because I'm not sure what to make of it. There's housing economists and economists out there that would like to see 4% interest rate just to suppress the market, just to slow down the real estate market. And that's possible, but not likely that we're going to see 4% interest rates anytime soon.
But even if it's 4, Tego, I mean, it can't slow it that much, right? 4 is still phenomenally great interest rates. I mean, we're talking 0.25%, 1/8% here and there. And yes, it makes a difference, but.
So let me give you this thought experiment. Okay. If you have a home and you've locked in a 30-year mortgage at 3% interest rate, and a year or two from now, mortgage rates are at 4.5%, how motivated are you going to be to sell your home?
I think people still, if they need to sell and they want to sell.
Okay, that's fair. No, I'll accept that. I'm just wondering, with these ultra low mortgage rates that people are now locked into, if that's going to be a deterrent for people putting their homes on the market in the future.
It could be, and probably Eddie would know that a lot of times what we're seeing now is when people are buying their dream home or they're moving up or they're changing homes, they're keeping their current home as a rental.
Seen a lot of that.
And so if you've got a house that's, a great rental and you're at a 3% mortgage, might just make sense to keep that house when you buy your other house.
You just hit on another thing that is also affecting the lack of supply of homes in the country. Is a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people own a second home, rental home, investment property, way more than any time in the past.
Right. A lot of people
that's keeping homes off the market, or at least for the for sale market. Yeah.
We've had plenty of home sellers that have chosen to keep their home and buy a new home as their primary residence. So.
Yep, for sure.
Wow. Amazing market out there.
Yep.
Some interesting things happening. We've got the chasm expanding between the haves and the have-nots, and we'll kind of figure out where this is all going to end up very soon here. I feel like we'll come to a culmination of, when those interest rates inch up, and then, of course, when there's a lack of supply. I mean, that would be dangerous, 750 homes on the market. So I think we're embarking on a precipice maybe here in the next, I'm going to call it here for you guys, 3 to 4 months. I'd say probably by January, February of next year, we're going to know exactly where we're at and where we're going forward. But as always, you'll be armed with the best real estate advice in the market by listening to Tego and Tracy Venturi.